Hi, my name is Tak, and welcome to my YouTube channel, How to Camera, YouTube channel where I show you how to camera. Today's episode is going to be on sensor types of cameras, some examples of them, and how do you choose the right one? Let's begin. Now the first sensor size I'm going to talk about is full frame. Now this is the biggest sensor size that I'm going to discuss. The dimensions are around 36 millimeters by 24 millimeters. And these cameras tend to be larger than their smaller counterparts and more expensive also. But what you're getting for the size and the price is generally better low light performance. In other words, shooting in the evening, shooting at nighttime, or shooting in dark scenes. Full frame cameras will generally perform a little better in those fields. It's interesting to note also that full frame cameras are actually the most common one, even though they're more expensive. Now, some examples of full frame cameras include Sony's A7 series. I'm shooting this one in A7S2. You have Canon's EOS R. The next sensor size I'm going to talk about is the APS-C sensor. Now, the dimensions for this are around 25.1 by 16.7 millimeters. And if you're curious, APS-C stands for Advanced Photo System Type C. Type C actually refers to the classic negatives in film or something. Now, if you're looking at a camera that's between $500 and $1,000, odds are it's an APS-C sensor that's in the camera. I actually have an APS-C sensor camera here. This is the NEX-C3. You may remember if you saw my last video. And just to show you, this is how the sensor looks like. It's neat, right? Now, the next camera sensor I'm going to discuss is the Micro Four Thirds sensor. Now, the dimensions for this are around 17.3 millimeters by 13 millimeters. And these are kind of rare because camera companies don't really make them anymore. As far as I know, only two companies really make Micro Four Thirds cameras, Olympus and Panasonic. And I have an example of one right here. This is the Olympus E500. And if you, again, saw my last video, this will look kind of familiar to you. When you take a look at the sensor, you can see how actually small it is. Except that's not the sensor, this is the mirror. And I don't want to put my finger in it to lift the mirror because, well, you generally don't want to put your fingers in there. But this will give you an idea of about how small actually this sensor is. Now, what you're getting for smaller lenses is actually a smaller body. Typically, Micro Four Thirds cameras tend to be a little smaller than APS-C and full frame cameras, definitely. But the last sensor size I'm going to talk to you guys about is the 1-inch sensor. And you generally find them in point-and-shoot cameras, although nowadays they are starting to fit APS-C sensors in these things. Now, of course, I can't open this point-and-shoot camera to show you the 1-inch sensor. There is one thing that's kind of crucial that I need to mention to you, and it's something that I wish I knew when I was younger. It's something called crop factor. In very basic terms, if I were to put this lens on this camera, which is very possible even though they're years apart, it's going to look different. You see, with different camera sizes, putting the same lenses on them will give you a different image. Taking a photo with this camera will appear wider if I took the same photo with the same lens on this one, simply because this is a smaller sensor. And then if I went even further and put that lens on a Micro Four Thirds camera, it's going to look even more zoomed in on that camera. We're going to go into a little more detail on this in a later video. And that concludes the episode about camera sensor sizes. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, leave it down there in the comments as always. Like, subscribe, favorite. Bye.